Common mistakes that slow belly fat loss despite good intentions. Understanding physiology, not willpower. Belly fat is hormonal sensitive, especially to insulin and cortisol. Many people work harder but make common, well-intended mistakes that actually slow progress. This talk explains the physiology so people stop fighting the biology. Compiled by Dr. Siva Navaratnam and ChatGPT, my educational partner. I would also like to thank my children, Dinan and Jazara, for helping me in the production of this video. Fat loss is not about trying harder. It is governed by hormones, particularly insulin and stress hormones like cortisol. When people don't understand this, they often increase effort in ways that actually slow belly fat loss. Exercise is healthy, but intensity matters. When people dramatically increase cardio early, the body experiences it as a stress. This raises cortisol, which specifically protects abdominal fat and slows belly fat loss. Early on, do walking and gentle movements work better than exhaustion. As long as insulin is elevated, fat, especially visceral or belly fat, is difficult to access. No amount of extra exercise can override that signal. This is why diet, meal timing, sleep, and stress regulation matter more than adding more cardio. Many people deliberately drink less because they think water slows weight loss. In reality, dehydration is perceived by the body as stress. This raises cortisol, worsens fatigue, and often leads to plateaus, especially for belly fat. Water supports physiology. Restricting it does the opposite. Whether physical or physiological, stress activates cortisol. Cortisol raises blood glucose and insulin and signals the body to preserve energy. This effort is strongest in the abdominal region, which is why belly fat is so stress sensitive. When carbohydrates are reduced, insulin levels fall. Lower insulin signals the kidneys to excrete sodium. This is normal physiology. If salt isn't replaced, people develop headaches, fatigue, dizziness, and brain fog. This is often labeled as keto intolerance, when it's actually sodium depletion. When insulin levels fall, the kidneys naturally excrete more sodium. This is expected physiology, not a problem with the diet. If salt is not replaced, people feel unwell, headaches, fatigue, dizziness, and brain fog. Replacing salt is not cheating. It is correcting a hormonal and electrolyte shift. Once sodium is restored, stress hormones fall and the symptoms usually resolve quickly. Every time we eat, especially foods containing carbohydrates, insulin is released. Insulin's job is to store energy and block fat release. When people snack or graze all day, insulin never stays long enough for fat excess. This is why eating all the time protects belly fat, even if calories seem modest. This is not about eating less, it's about giving insulin time to fall. This is one of the most important concepts in fat loss. Fat burning is not switched on by effort. It is unlocked by hormonal excess. As long as insulin remains elevated, fat, especially belly fat, is difficult to mobilize. Insulin must stay low for long enough for fat to become available as fuel. This is why spacing meals, improving sleep, reducing stress, and avoiding constant snacking matter more than willpower. A very common belief is that the brain must constantly be supplied with dietary carbohydrates. In reality, the brain needs glucose, and the body can make glucose when needed. During carbohydrate restriction, the liver produces glucose and ketones. Ketones fuel a large proportion of the brain. Reducing the need for dietary carbohydrates. This is normal human physiology, not a dangerous state. This statement often surprises people, but it's basic human physiology. The body requires glucose, but it does not require dietary carbohydrates. When carbohydrate intake is low, the liver can make glucose from protein and other fuels. At the same time, ketones provide an efficient fuel for the brain and muscles. This flexibility is a normal survival mechanism, not a metabolic failure. Sleep is one of the strongest regulators of metabolic health. Even a few nights of poor sleep raises cortisol and makes the body insulin resistant. This happens regardless of how well someone eats or how much they exercise. When insulin resistance rises, belly fat becomes harder to access and fat loss slows. This is biology, not a lack of discipline. Sleep is one of the most powerful regulators of metabolism. When sleep is reduced or disrupted, the body raises cortisol and becomes more insulin resistant, even if diet and exercise are perfect. Insulin resistance makes it harder to access stored fat, particularly belly fat. This isn't a failure of discipline, it's a biological response to sleep loss. For many people, improving sleep is the missing piece that unlocks the fat loss without doing anything more. Stress doesn't just affect the mind, it directly affects metabolism. When stress is ongoing, the body produces more cortisol. Cortisol raises blood glucose and insulin and signals the body to conserve energy. This response is protective, but it also makes belly fat harder to lose. This applies to physical stress, psychological stress, and even self-imposed pressure from dieting or overexercising. A lot of advice on social media is designed for reach, not individual physiology. People differ in insulin sensitivity, stress load, sleep quality, medications, and health conditions. When people follow rigid rules online and ignore warning signs such as fatigue, distress, poor sleep, or rising stress, they often push harder instead of adjusting. This increases stress hormones and can slow belly fat loss. When belly fat loss slows, it is usually not because people aren't trying hard enough. It's because the body is receiving signals of stress rather than safety. Poor sleep, ongoing stress, excessive cardio, dehydration, low salt, and constant eating all raise stress hormones or insulin. When insulin and cortisol stay elevated, the body protects belly fat instead of releasing it. Some people feel unwell when they reduce carbohydrates. This doesn't mean the approach is wrong. It usually means the body is adapting to a different fuel system. In the next talk, I will explain what's happening and how to transition safely. Thank you for watching.